people where people just go for challenges. And I think we finished up with ecotourism. So today I want us to take up ecotourism and look at ecotourism just as a market segment in tourism, but to look at community-based ecotourism as well. So in this lecture, we are going to have about 2 videos we're going to watch. And one is actually on Kenya, which have some discussions around, especially in Kenya, but more so really at the coast, and see how can we, is there anything that we can do to make things better at the coast? Or do we have any ideas of what we can do to really achieve a high status of ecotourism? We're also going to look at the principles that guide ecotourism. And I think from one of the videos, we're going to look at the benefits of ecotourism. Please make sure you're writing notes, because that is part of learning. So they're not just for fun, it's for you to listen. If there is a gap in your notes, you know that you fill it up with all the information that you're getting from within the class hours, and even without, to make your knowledge even more robust. So I'm going to start sharing now. Make sure you register yourself. If you haven't registered, make sure, I don't think anyone has for this class. Make sure you write your name, and also make sure you write your name. So can everyone see the presentation? Can you all see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to start. We had already defined ecotourism, although we still define it again. Just to start with, it's good to note that ecotourism is a growing niche market. Niche just means it's just a special kind of thing that is developing just away from the mainstream or different from the mainstream, with the potential of being an important sustainable development tool. We are talking about sustainable development over and over and over again. But tourism may be actually a sustainable development tool. This market or this segment is worth billions of dollars in annual sales. So it's a segment that is making money, is generating revenue. Revenue going to all sorts of people, maybe the local community, in terms of tax and everything. So, and segment, it is not redundant, it is growing. It frequently operates quite industry. And you may just be wondering, so special about ecotourism? Why is it so different from the other types of ecotourism? Last week, when we were looking at tourism, I asked you to discuss that we face, and we named them. Right from moral degradation, sometimes disrespect of culture, all the way also to the degradation of the environment, and yeah, so many things. And at times, being the fact that the mainstream tourism yes, it may generate a lot of money, but you may just find out that the beneficiaries are basically the proprietors, the owners maybe of the hotels and everything. Maybe even their workers are from a different place. So the local community is basically left out. They have no say and that kind of thing. The issue of pollution, plastics at the beach, destruction of if it's corals, all those things. So ecotourism tends to remove itself from all that and have a completely new angle and outlook, which is very attractive to some people. So ecotourists are particularly interested in wilderness settings that look pristine, they're untouched, they're unpolluted. You know, it doesn't have to be in the desert, it can be anywhere. And according to the 5th Conference of Parties to the CBD, ecotourism has a unique role to play in educating travelers about the value of a healthy environment and biological diversity. By the way, most people who take a holiday and say, okay, I'm going for holiday, the kind that I'm going to do is actually ecotourism. For most of the people are very well informed. They are aware of what they want. And not only are they aware, but they do something, either directly or indirectly, maybe to conserve the environment, to reach out to the communities, to in sharing in whatever resources there are. So most of these people are very, very well educated, very, very informed. So these people care. They care about a healthy environment. They care about biological diversity and everything. However, having painted it so well and so glorious, we should always take precaution, because if you're not careful, remember in most cases, maybe these people are going to those pristine places that are still very well protected. If there's no proper planning and management, it is possible for ecotourism development to threaten the very, very biological diversity that it hopes to protect. So when you have an ecotourism project or venture for that very, very careful that you don't overdo it. Everything should be so well planned, so well balanced out, so that you still achieve your aims. You should not be driven by money. Oh, we have more people. Let's create room for them and everything. No, 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 no. You should keep to the standard. So let's look at the definitions of ecotourism. In 1991, the International Ecotourism Society defined ecotourism as responsible travel to natural areas that conserve the environment and sustain the well-being of local people. So there is the word environment there, and there is the well-being of local people. Put those two things in mind as we continue along, because they are so important to defining what ecotourism is. The IUCN, on the other hand, have also given a definition. According to them, it's an environmentally responsible travel or visitation to relatively undisturbed areas. I think so far they're in sync with the above definition, in order to enjoy and appreciate that promotes conservation, has low negative environmental impact, and provides for beneficially acting economic involvement of local population. I want you to look at, to note these words, because they are so important once you come to ecotourism. You notice that in both cases, in both definitions, I have highlighted the local people. Let's go to the third definition, and then we will come back to that. Oh, okay, fine. So from these two definitions, some words just spring up. Is the word environmentally responsible. That means you are conscious as a traveler. Sorry. As a traveler, as to where you're traveling. So without even being told, you are looking at your impact on the environment. So whatever activities you're going to carry out, the first question you should be asking yourself, is it environmentally sustainable? And for most ecotourists, if they find it's not, then they're ready to stop that activity. The other thing that I want you to look at, of course, is the word conservation. Okay, I can't see it there, but where it's a major one. But I want you to look at the socioeconomic involvement of local people, the local population. For ecotourism, local populations are so important. You cannot say, or you cannot talk about ecotourism when you're not addressing local population. In fact, most ecotourists, you find them right there inside the villages. That's where they're staying, that's where they're carrying out their activities, that they're doing whatever it is they are doing. So ecotourism, as I said, this is a special segment that is different from the mainstream ecotourism. So I said it is small but rapidly growing industry. And of course, it's governed by market forces and regulations. Yeah, because there are regulations. You don't just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm doing ecotourism. No. You have to be certified. Advertised as being equivalent to nature tourism in the industry. So remember those definitions, and maybe you're also wondering, how come these definitions seem so close? Some countries, companies, destinations have social environmental policies and programs while others do not. And this has led to confusion worldwide about the meaning of the term ecotourism as it's applied in the tourism industry. Now, an prime motivation is the observation and appreciation of natural features and cultural assets. Whereas in adventure tourism, it's rather the physical exercise and challenging situations in natural environment. So you can already see the difference between ecotourism and this other kind of tourism. Ecotourism will always look at culture, the people. It cannot be far removed from the people, and that is actually what just separates it from the rest. For most people, or for most organizations doing ecotourism, most of them are mostly small-scale tourism, mostly individualized. So you have a small tour group of about 25 people. Most of the hotels with ecotourism have less than 100 beds, very small that is. By small and medium-sized company in natural areas. Tourism projects will only find them in natural areas and not nowhere else. It concentrates on leading and accommodating small groups in natural areas in an educational manner using interpretive materials and local specialist guides. One thing about ecotourism, even where the guests stay, is mostly within maybe a village. They'd use maybe local workers, local guides, okay? There's a lot of education that takes place in ecotourism, and the ecotourist goes there very prepared. Very prepared. They don't go like, oh, I want to enjoy my holiday, don't bother me. No. They know that at times they'll be called upon just to sit down and be educated about the environment, and probably that is mostly what they receive in their welcome package. That, okay, we're happy to have you, but this day and this day we should sit down and be educated. This day and this day we should go out to the forest to do something. And for an ecotourist, all that is acceptable. Kwa huyu mtalii wa kawaida, most of them don't even want to be bothered. So just leave me alone. I want to do my thing. I came for holiday. So what are the roots of ecotourism? How did ecotourism actually come about? How do we find ourselves today talking about ecotourism? Now, ecotourism is highly rooted in the conservation movement. So probably that is where it came from. It started with conservation, and maybe later people are like, okay, so if you're doing conservation, how will people benefit from this conservation? And maybe that's how they ended up suggesting ecotourism, that you can see conserved nature and have other people from elsewhere come and enjoy it just the way it is and make some money out of it. So it's a highly strategic source of revenue to natural areas that need protection. So it was found like a solution to a natural area where you know that you need to protect that area. And if you need to protect it, that means you need money. So how do you make money? You can use ecotourism. Come, they pay, and you plow that money back into protection. Another something that I didn't mention about, I said it's you have to be environmentally responsible, but most ecotourists are also ready to support conservation. That is mostly within the minds of those people that are doing ecotourism. Now, in Kenya, research in the 1970s demonstrated that the economic benefits of wildlife tourism far surpassed hunting, which was banned in Kenya in 1977. I think from the colonial all the way up to 1977, in Kenya, there was a lot of, and this was introduced by the colonialists, there was a lot of hunting. They'd hunt for trophies, and that included elephants, rhinos, leopards for their beautiful skin, and other trophies. And people used to make money out of this. And it reached a point when poaching started. There was a lot of illegal removal of animals from the forest. Of course, those who are hunting had licenses, but people who did not have licenses also took advantage. Is that we saw decline in our wildlife. There was a lot of smuggling of these trophies, elephant tusks, rhino tusks, leopard skins, those. I think this forced the government to put a ban on hunting. But of course, the argument was we've been providing money. When you pay licenses for hunting, we get the government. So what will happen if you're not hunting? And I think that is when the issue of ecotourism, they started discussing it and realizing, hey, probably there's another way out here. We can make money just from people coming to see wildlife and giving hunting licenses. And I think that has not disappointed, because if you organize your tourism well, people will just come, see the animals, pay, and they leave the animals there for somebody else to come and see, and it's a luta continua. Okay. In the early 80s, research on rainforest ecological diversity and of and the excesses of nature in documentaries. This has also been used. Documentaries, I think, have also really played a big role in supporting ecotourism or encouraging people, to think around tourism. Of course, before, like, never knew what was inside the in the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, the coral reefs in Kenya, in other countries. All this was a mystery. But when documentaries started documenting this and showing, and people got interested, and of course, the themes, I think, were conservation. So you say, fine, I would like to go and see the place, stay there, but still maybe donate towards the conservation of that place and that kind of thing. So this was also another key thing that contributed to the development of ecotourism. Small businesses specializing in guiding scientists and filmmakers into remote zones sprouted after these documentaries. We know that such things will always come back. There'll be always this guy who say, I can show you around this forest. I was born here. I can I can do this and this. And remember, all this happens just within that local, whereby you're sure that the beneficiaries are just local. They're just the local guys from the town who are doing something for themselves. And that became a very, very acceptable model. And of course, slowly it started creating this niche market. So when these small businesses prospered, because as long as there's business and their costs are low and everything, especially in Costa Rica and ECOTOUR, Costa Rica is documented like the world's the best, not really the best place, but they are sort of a number one tourism. So I think they're very good, and also ECOTOUR are very good. So as these small businesses, remember also in Costa Rica, they have the rainforest, the small businesses started developing and everything. So some people realized, this can be a niche where people come to the natural areas, they live within maybe a village, they meet the people, as you're going to see in a video shortly, and they also contribute to the good of that place. So in many areas of the world, pioneer entrepreneurs created special field visits and studies for adult travelers, students, and volunteers. Nowadays, we have a lot of these volunteers. So you say, I would like to volunteer to go and work for 2 weeks in a natural environment in Africa. That is part of ecotourism. And when you're volunteering, you're paying. Part of that money, of course, will take care of the workers that work in that particular place. But also some of that money will contribute to conservation of that place as well. We also have students who will go there maybe for attachment or internship. And the good thing about ecotourism, you're just there within the people, living there, living with them, probably, and doing some of the things that they are doing. Now, so international nature-based businesses began to thrive in the 80s with growing interest in outdoor travel and the environment. Then, of course, these companies realized that they could take initiative and conserve the environment by sponsoring local conservation groups in destinations they visited or by raising funds for local causes, especially to a company that source there has to be a company probably that is sourcing for the visitors. Maybe it's connected with visitors from Europe, from the US, from Asia. So, and of course, when the visitors come, mostly they'll pay through them. So what happens, the tour companies started talking to these small local businesses, and they started saying, how can we support these people so that we can also continue enjoying whatever it is that they are offering, okay? We can continue to make money also, because also our businesses revolve around whatever these people are doing. So these two companies started fundraising to support conservation. Then from there, we went to training and hiring local people. Important. When you're doing ecotourism, hire local people. Let local people run the show. They know best. Teach them. If you need to train them, go ahead and train them and teach them, okay? So that at the end of the day, you are making sure that they are the greatest beneficiaries. After all, the resources are theirs because that's where they live. So I think this was a good move. Now, tour operators selling trips, for example, to the Galapagos Island. Last week we mentioned Galapagos. Costa Rica, Kenya, and Nepal are some of the early players in this movement. You can see Kenya does not get left behind. Somehow she raises her head and says, I'm there. Yeah, so tour operators are already selling ecotourism as a special destination. And of course, they go ahead and say where you will live and how to be and that kind of thing. Now, some of these companies argue that, in fact, that they're using ecotourism principles for some 20 to 30 years. But we don't know this. Now, this is everybody trying to say, oh, we are the ones who discovered ecotourism. I want you to look at that picture. What do you see? So this is open. I want to hear from you. What are you seeing in that picture? Au mnataka niwaite majina? Nothing.
I think 4 people.
Just speak a bit loudly.
I'm seeing only 4 people.
Sorry?
I'm seeing 4 people.
Okay, you are seeing 4 people. Who else is seeing more than 4 people? What else are you seeing? What can you decipher from the picture? Can you tell a story from that picture?
Okay, from what I can see, this is like a conservation area with the demarcated walking paths to that people can come and enjoy nature at its best.
Thank you. Somebody else, apart from what Peter can see and what Clifford can see, what else are you seeing? What can you read? What story can you tell from that picture? Just think of some of the definitions we've talked about of ecotourism.
Okay, I think to add on it, this guy with the blue t-shirt looks like a local guide who knows the area very well. You can see he's carrying a bucket. I don't know what the purpose of the bucket, but it seems he's a local guide.
He's a local guide. That is true. That's very important for ecotourism. Why is it? What is in the bucket?
I can see some smoke. So most of the ancient communities used to do incest, and they also used to. There were these tree that produces perfumes. I think this is one of them.
Okay, so you think he's going to produce perfumes? What else? Why is he carrying smoke? Joy Alice. Joy Alice, are we together? Okay, Joy Alice left a long time ago. Mwandiwa Mudengi. Okay.
I don't know.
You don't know, you can't guess. You know, I don't like the answer, I don't know. I like, let me guess, let me think.
Okay, let me try it for them.
Right, Eric?
Verify to my biology back in high school. Smoke produces carbon. Carbon is used by trees for respiration.
Okay.
I can also try.
Okay, try, come on.
Looking at it, this is more of a forest. And from where I come from, I've seen smoke being used in beekeeping, that is, during honey harvesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a possibility that they could be, he's taking them to a beehive and he's showing them maybe their beehive, so they have to carry smoke to deter the bees. I was also thinking that maybe the smoke also is to keep, there are times you have very, very funny insects that come biting you as you walk through a forest. Maybe, I don't know, in that forest you have such a thing. Somebody else has just said that is to keep wild animals away to avoid the human-wildlife conflict. Maybe, I'm trying to wonder which animals will keep away from smoke. Most animals don't like smoke, they don't like fire. So we don't know, but I'm trying to imagine in this place where they already have a pathway, probably it's not as wild, but of course we don't know. So that's also another possibility. So the people in this picture, you can see the ones behind well dressed, they are tourists, but here we can see a walkboard on which is the guy is walking with his charcoal. So yeah, so this is important. You can already see the natural, the environment issues being addressed. These people are definitely not staying in a 5-star hotel. This is nothing close to a 5-star hotel. They are quite right there inside nature, and they are working with the local people. Their guide is not suit with a good accent and imported notebooks. No, it's just a local guy carrying smoke, and this guy is afraid of getting smoke. By the time they're finishing this exercise, they'll all be smelling smoke. If you're in a 5-star hotel, you don't want anything close to smoke anywhere near me. Sorry, near you. But look at these people, they don't seem to mind. They know why they came here. They are happy that all the smoke is going to them. Actually, the local guy is fine. Yeah, apart is smoke, but the guys behind him are just suffering. But it looks like they are ready to sacrifice that to get to where they are going, whatever it is they are going to do, and achieve it. So it can be profitable, but it requires people who are ready to meet higher social and environmental goals. In short, we are saying ecotourism cannot be business as usual. You can't do it the way you do the kawaida tourism. No, you Your environmental goals have to be higher than just your kawaida. And look here, you know, it goes all around, right from the food you're eating, to the water you're drinking, to the places you're staying, to the things that you're doing. It all adds up. So it's calling for those people who have a conscience towards environmental conservation, for them to say, yeah, I think this is the right place for me to stay, or I don't think it looks good, it's glamorous, but this is no place for me to stay. They need to be able to do that. Now, the fact that, okay, business owners who must be willing to apply there must also be business owners who are willing to apply a unique set of standards to their business approaches. These standards, we now have some standards, but they have been evolving in the last 10 years. The fact that no international regulatory body exists and that standards in the field of ecotourism are quite difficult to measure has allowed businesses and governments to promote ecotourism without any oversight. Yeah, and this can be bad in one way. If everything that comes up, just because of a standard, you say, oh, this is ecotourism, and you sell it as ecotourism. Of course, you know, when you sell it as ecotourism, it creates interest. Maybe you are charging higher than the rest, so you get more people. But is that really tourism? So I think what is lacking right now are the standards. Or even the vetting that say this is an ecotourism outfit, or this outfit has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with ecotourism. Now, ecotourism is a business and it can be, sorry, I thought. So we've got this term greenwashing. And what we are saying, those who want to sell ecotourism, if they don't meet the standard, are misusing this name, ecotourism. Are they making money? Yes, because once they tell people it's an eco-lodge and that kind of thing, people will come. Never mind that they are not going to find what you're saying they will find. You start giving them stories. But this has also created a lot of disappointment in the inside. And it has also, I think, made it even more urgent for there some conversations and some guidelines and rules as to how to run ecotourism. However, in some cases, the lack of knowledge may be the reason behind not people knowing whether this is ecotourism or not. So we still need that benefit of doubt that people could genuinely at times be unaware. But I think once they are made aware, they can make right impacts. So they can make right decisions. If it's a business owner, they can be able to upgrade. And even if it's a tourist, they know what it is they are going to do and the rules that they need to follow. International conferences, workshops, publications, however, have continued to make it more and more clear what is ecotourism and what it is not. So this has helped a bit in definition. So what are the environmental objectives and how are they met? In order for ecotourism to achieve, okay, I think it's a good time to watch this video. Can you see my screen?
No.
Okay. So let me try. Let me try and share.
More information, click here. We are peace. We are war. We are how we treat each other.
Are we together?
Yes.
You can call it as you like: green traveling, sustainable traveling, or environmental and cultural friendly traveling. Ecotourism has many different names, but they all have one similar goal. Ecotourism consists of the words ecological and tourism. A good mixture, huh? Would you like to combine them both? I guess that ecotourism fits perfectly to you then. But first we have to clarify what ecotourism actually is. There are many definitions and various concepts. According to the International Ecotourism Society, or short, TIES, ecotourism is defined as responsible travel to natural areas that conserves the environment, sustains the well-being of the local people, and involves interpretation and education. Once we have that, we can move on to the fun part. How does ecotourism look in practice? It is hard to point out what ecotourism constitutes, since every project has its own focus. But cultural exchange is a common core aspect, as well as environmental protection and preservation of biodiversity. Other concerns are livelihood improvement and the strengthening of human rights. Many villages receive support from local or foreign NGOs, and specialized staff provides knowledge and future-oriented ideas. As every ecotourism location is different, the accommodation differs as well. To name some examples, there are eco-lodges, tree houses, homestays, hammocks, or tents. Let's take a look at the advantages for communities. Economically seen, ecotourism creates jobs locally, and the need for young people to leave home to work in cities is reduced. Nearly everyone can participate by being a tour guide, selling or cooking food, providing accommodations, taking part in cultural performances, and more. Communities can consolidate their financial status due to entrance fees and program or accommodation costs. In addition, their earnings are stabilized since they have a diversified economy. What about those who can't get involved? Everyone profits from ecotourism because of the shared income in the community. In terms of the infrastructure, new streets and schools can be built, as well as health centers, drinking water resources, and electricity. In the best case, an ecotourism business will train local people with new skills to expand their opportunities. And what about the environment? Due to responsible tours through the nature, ecotourism has low negative impacts on the environment. A common activity is tree planting to grow rare trees in the project's region to increase the population. The surrounding nature is protected because of the establishment of national parks, marine parks, or wildlife sanctuaries. Thanks to protected areas, biodiversity is sheltered, and wild animals can remain in their natural habitat. Communities often sell their resources like water, trees, minerals, or wildlife if they don't earn enough money. In addition, forests are cut down to create farms. Ecotourism is a sustainable alternative for these problems. In many ecotourism projects, renewable energy resources, water conservation schemes, recycled material, and a safe waste disposal is used. Moreover, most participants cook with local and organic food. Concerning the culture, ecotourism projects have high standards to protect customs. The local culture is not exploited or commercialized, so that traditions and the region's heritage is preserved. Locals have the chance to present their culture with performances of customs and let you take part in it. And guess what? Not only do the communities benefit from it, but you do as well. It is ensured that the money you spend won't go to the sometimes corrupt governments. You know where your money goes and for what it is spent on. And there's a huge price range of ecotourism projects, so everyone can afford it. See unspoilt nature and learn more about the condition of the environment while trekking. As a side effect, you will find beautiful landscapes and calm and relaxing places. Take a break from the crowded and loud cities. Simultaneously, you can reduce your carbon footprint and protect the environment. Ecotourism projects are sensitive to the environment and animals, in contrast to mass tourism. Animals are not unfairly caged, so you can see them in their natural habitat. Learn more about regional plants and animals. In terms of cultural aspects, you get an authentic picture of a location and learn about their lifestyle at first hand to get a deeper understanding of their culture. Get an inside view of their prospects and desires. Sometimes you have the opportunity to sleep in villages with hosts in their homestays. Take part in activities like ceremonies, dancing, or cooking classes. Enjoy the different varieties of music and style of dress that you will be introduced to during your travels. Buy souvenirs from craft producers, or even learn how to do it yourself in handicraft workshops. See the world from a different angle and get new perspectives through exchanges with the locals. By the way, did you notice the triangle of sustainability? It includes economic vitality, environmental integrity, and social equity. These three parts are always taken into account in sustainable projects. All these facets are the reason why ecotourism is such a sustainable concept and brings joy, financial security, and unforgettable moments. Let's see what tourists say.
I think it's really worthwhile. I think people travel to see something different and unique, and we want to make sure that places keep their own spirit and culture, and that's part of the joy of traveling and being able to support an ecotourism project where not only the culture but the nature and the uniqueness of a place is really great, and hopefully it'll make traveling as good for our children and our future families and grandchildren as it is for us. So I think that's important to keep share the same experiences and opportunities that we've had.
And who can participate in ecotourism? The answer is everyone can. You don't have to be super active since there are many projects that don't require activities. You could travel alone, with friends, your partner, or even with children. And you don't have to spend a lot of money or stay overnight if you don't want to. Every project is different, and so are the travelers. You are responsible for the project you choose, whether you fit into the activities and the accommodation or not. But don't forget, you get the chance to try something new and widen your horizons. Ecotourism gives a completely different view of the world and challenges us to open our minds to different ways of thinking. The concept of ecotourism includes great possibilities and provides positive experiences for both visitor and local. It builds environmental and cultural awareness and respect. It's up to you. Travel green and have unforgettable experiences. Encourage others to take care while traveling and raise awareness about the culture, the people, their history, and the environment. Inform yourself about ecotourism for places you want to visit. They are all over the world. What are you waiting for? There are so
Okay, back to class. I hope you have learned a thing or two from that video, because I thought it also have some of the things, some of the features that we are looking for, the good definition of ecotourism, the sustainability of ecotourism, that is not just for today's generation, it is also for future generations. So that is very, very important for ecotourism. So let's continue with yeah. So meeting environmental objectives. In order for ecotourism to achieve its key social and environmental objectives, it requires that there should be, one, a specialized marketing to attract travelers who are primarily interested in visiting natural areas. As we saw, not everybody is interested in traveling to natural areas. People have all sorts of interests. So you have, if you are marketing ecotourism, if you want to promote ecotourism, then you've got to have that very specialized ecotourism. So that specialized marketing will really attract the potential travelers. Then management skills that are particular to handling visitors in protected natural areas. When people are visiting protected natural areas, there are so many rules at times, a lot of do's and don'ts. So you need a lot of skills in order to guide your visitors so that they'll go, they'll enjoy the place and leave the place more or less the way they found it. Things like no littering. If they are, probably they have some paths where you walk through, you don't walk all over, you have to follow a certain path. You don't know, go removing branches or leaves from trees or taking away animals or insects, whatever it is. So you need very specialized skills, management skills, to be able to handle this. Interpretation services should preferably be managed by local inhabitants. Because remember, you are living among them. They know the area better than any other visitor, and that resource is theirs. So they know the history of the place, and they are the best. If you train them properly, they are the best ones. So you don't need to bring tour guides from wherever. Those ones, train the locals, teach them how to do it. Even if at times they have to do it through an interpreter, that is still fine, it is acceptable. If, for example, you want to tell the history of a place, and the only person who can tell it, well, is an old man using a local language. Tell the story, just have an interpreter, so that in all cases, the local economy and the local people and their capacity is also built. So this is, I think this is a natural forest. I think it's somewhere in Rwanda. Yeah, I just found that bridge really interesting. And I was wondering, would I want to use that bridge? So that is just a break. Another issue is that government policies that earmark fees from tourism to generate funds for both conservation of wildlands and sustainable development of local communities and indigenous people. So the government must always have in mind that whatever is coming out from this kind of ecotourism should be able to support conservation, but also the sustainable development of local people. Some money should go back to those communities. The government should not take everything. So they make sure they are continually investing, maybe supporting education, maybe supporting health, maybe a community project. So the government should always, some of those proceeds have to be plowed back into the community. Then it should also be focus attention on local people who must give the right of prior informed consent. If you want to start an ecotourism project or enterprise, for heaven's sake, involve the local people and give them the right to either agree or refuse. Okay, that is what you call full participation. Let them decide. Tell them your proposal, tell them what you want, put everything on the table, educate them on everything, then let them decide if they want to continue or they don't. If they don't, then let it be. Don't force them. Okay? So let's look at the principles of ecotourism. I think we looked a bit before, but let's look at them again. So one of the principles is to minimize the negative impact on nature and culture that can damage a destination. So you want the footprint to be very, very small on both the culture and also the environment. Then you should also educate the traveler on the importance of conservation. So as I said before, the traveler must be educated. And then you should stress on the importance of responsible business, which works cooperatively with local authorities and people so that the local needs can be met as well as deliver the conservation benefits. Then there are direct benefits to conservation and management of natural land and protected areas. That's what I was saying, that some of these processes should go directly to protection and management. And then emphasize the need for regional tourism zoning and for visitor management plans designed for either regions or natural areas that are slated to become eco-destination. How are you going to zone your region? What about visitor management? How are you going to do it? So this has to be thought through and be well planned. Then also another principle is to emphasize the use of environmental and social baseline studies, as well as long-term monitoring programs to assess and minimize impact. So as you continue carrying out your business, you should have in place monitoring programs. Of course, you have your baseline. Okay, so 10 years down the line, how is the social fabric? Is it better or worse, or it is as it was during baseline? What about the environment? And this monitoring helps you to assess the impact, and it also helps you to intervene fast enough to minimize this impact, especially if they are negative. Then you should also strive to maximize, another principle, you should strive to maximize economic benefit for host and communities, particularly people living in and adjacent to natural area and protected areas. I think that's already clear. You should also seek to ensure that tourism development does not exceed the social and environmental limits of acceptable change as determined by research cooperation with local residents. The thing is, how much change can society tolerate? Okay, do they want to reach a point where there's so much change addressing like tourists, for example? Is a community ready for that? For some, I think it's religion. For some, I think it's whatever culture it is. How much is the community ready to tolerate and how much are they not ready to tolerate? So you should always work together. Then you should also, another principle is rely on infrastructure that has been developed in harmony with the environment. Some infrastructure actually is so environmentally friendly. And I think once you start ecotourism, you should sustain it. For example, minimize the use of fossil fuels. In a place like Lamu, okay, we later on are going to look at heritage sites. If you go to Lamu, I think now there's a tractor, there's a Land Rover. I think there's one other car. Of course, there are many motorbikes now, which is a nuisance. In Lamu, before you never see a motorbike, there was only one tractor, no fossil fuel users at all. And that was it. And the residents were happy to use donkeys. Of course, they keep pooping everywhere. And it's just that distinct smell in Lamu, which at times is intolerable. But well, that is what they want. They didn't want cars. But now with the advent of motorbikes have become a nuisance, especially in those narrow streets. You can easily get knocked down. So that's what I'm saying. You have to think through these things. Do you want to conserve local plants? Maybe even the local people don't want any introduction of any other plant from elsewhere. They want to maintain their local plants, their local wildlife. and all that kind of stuff. So, who are the ecosystem stakeholders? Who are those people, washikadau? So one of the stakeholders is the government. So what should the role of the government be? The government should guarantee the protection of nature, local cultures, and especially traditional knowledge, and also genetic resources. So that is the role of the government. They should come up with policies to make sure that all these are taken care of. So the second thing that the government should do, especially the ministries of tourism, is to develop policies that will protect and manage natural areas, very specific to natural areas, so that even tomorrow, if somebody wants to start an ecotourism project in a certain area, they already have some guidelines on the do's and don'ts and also the requirements and that kind of thing. Tourism boards and ministries should establish brand recognition of the country as an ecotourism destination. Let me finish this and then I'll show you on Kenya. The government should also sustain development of regional networks and cooperation and marketing of ecotourism products at the international and regional level. I think the government does this a lot, just promoting, but I don't know whether there is the kawaida tourism. I don't know how much they target ecotourism. I'm not sure. But we'll find out. Then there's the development of stable infrastructure, currency exchange rates, which should be friendly, transport system, of course, peace and security. You know, for example, that tourism in Kenya started collapsing after the 1997-98 tribal clash. It's a short one. Can you see
Kenya
it?
is famous for
Can you see that? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
one of the most diverse ecosystems in the world. Its large wildlife reserves and unique landscape has made it an extremely popular destination for tourism, raking in millions in earnings every year. And now the trend in the sector is to be eco-friendly, a stance that has seen ecotourism take a central focus.
Ecotourism is an issue, a situation where there is environmental conservation, there is responsible use of resources, and also economic investment is involved. Ecotourism essentially has three aspects to it. First of all, it protects the environment and conserves the wildlife habitat. Secondly, it pays special attention to the aspirations of communities so that the local communities can benefit from tourism. And thirdly, it offers a different kind of experience to the visitor, where they're getting close to nature and enjoying being very close to wildlife and able to enjoy learning more about the habitat and the environment and the different animals they see with high quality guides.
Ecotourism attempts to give back to the country what has been taken from it. This also means that travelers actively engage in promoting the culture and environment of Kenya.
Ecotourism and indeed sustainable tourism actually looks at having a cohesive relationship between what we would traditionally call tourism facilities and the communities that surround them. And then the understanding it's a natural process, the understanding of the codependence of the tourism facilities and the communities.
With the effects of climate change already being felt across the world, the tourism industry has been blamed for wasteful and intrusive practices.
Deforestation is a major factor in climate change, and it's very important that we conserve our forests. And of course, tourism and ecotourism has a role to play because conservation of the environment, the wildlife parks, and the protection of forests are vital for tourism. And so what you'll find is that by encouraging ecotourism, making it possible for people to earn an income from tourism means that there's a greater incentive for protecting the forests. And we've found that wildlife parks and the establishment of wildlife conservancies has an important role to play in stopping the destruction of forests.
However, Kenya is seeing a reverse of this trend, and already the country has won many accolades on the international stage.
Recently in China, it was announced that Kenya was voted in the top 5 destinations in the world for our Masai Mara Reserve, which of course has become world famous. And then also in China, again, the World Traveller Award for the best ecotourism destination in the world was won by Kenya.
These types of awards are looking to reward those who are making significant investment in promoting sustainability, and Kenya is one of them. And I think that has begun to have a lot more relevance in local media, and issues surrounding aspects to do with the Mao are now being connected to important sectors like tourism, and so that is now gaining more airtime.
The development of eco-friendly facilities has been a positive step in this direction, where hotels and lodges attempt to minimize their impact on the surroundings.
What we have tried to do in the area we are in Masamara is that we have created a company called Maranov Conservancy, where we are guaranteeing a fixed payment for the land every month, no matter how good or bad the tourism is. And what we are hoping is that the cattle owner or the herder will now see there is an alternative only to livestock. Slowly, we are working with the community to understand this, and at the same time bringing in donors, bringing in other money from elsewhere, digging in our pockets once again to maybe introduce different herds, different breeds, so we can have a much better life with less cattle.
One of the key things is improving the awareness levels of people. What is ecotourism, and what does it aim to achieve, and how sustainable is it? What kind of thresholds are we looking at in terms of where it can be applied? But most importantly, how does it fit into sustainable tourism, and then how does this affect the tourism sector overall?
The future looks bright, and it is expected that ecotourism in Kenya will continue to grow at a rapid pace, since there is much scope for improvement.
Hello, can we continue now?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we've watched that clip on Kenya. We've seen actually Kenya does have an ecotourism board, though Kenya is taking ecotourism seriously. And yeah, there are plans and strategies, I hope, that are in place to try and promote ecotourism. There is a lot that Kenya can offer in terms of ecotourism. And as you've seen, I think Kenya already won an award for, I think, the best ecotourism destination. Claimed it, but they didn't. So it's up to you to find out. And even on your own, you now start thinking, what can we do at the coast? Of course, I know there are some ecotourism, whatever, but what else can be done? Armed with this knowledge, what else do you think you can do? You don't have to start big at any one time. So the other stakeholders are the local authorities. And in this, I would say for us, I think it's the county government. They have their responsibilities to promote ecotourism, probably also to zone out those areas that they can sell and say these are possible ecotourism sites. So in case anyone is ready to invest, this is a venture that you can do. Of course, you have to be in agreement with the local communities. We also have NGOs that promote ecotourism. I think like the one in, I think we have some NGO in, where is this? In, oh no, I think that is now fully under the Kipepeo project. I think that is now under the community, fully under the community. I'm not sure. Then we've got the private sector, of course, where we get most of the investors. And then we've got communities, which are very important stakeholders of ecotourism. Some of the negative socioeconomic and cultural impacts of tourism include, we discussed this in the last lecture last week, but let's just remind ourselves there is, of course, the loss of local traditions. Then there is commercialization of local cultural projects. Maybe what was once available for communal use, when the demand goes high, then even that which the community could access without pay, then people start charging for that. So you commercialize everything. I always remember right outside my house, not far from my house, just a few meters from my house, is a small tree. I don't know whether it's a tree. Well, it's a tree. This tree is called the birimbi tree. And it bears some fruit which grow even on the stem. And these fruits they are very good for making sauces, to making a chili sauce or any other sauce. This tree, anybody in the village can come and get some birimbis. Nobody will ever charge you for it, even if it's not on your plot. You're just entitled. The fact that you are a local, you live there, you live there, then you're entitled. And I always say, the moment that somebody will start thinking that they can take these ones to the market and say, of course, I've seen them being sold in the market. The moment or the day that somebody will think of doing that, then that will be the end of free taking. People will start charging for it. And it happens a lot with other local cultural products in wherever it is. Once tourism comes in, I'm talking about the kawaida tourism, then these things become commercialized and all that part of the social fabric is. Then there's erosion of self-worth. I think we've seen a lot of this where even young people, even older people just throw themselves at tourists. They forget who they are, they forget their dignity, and are ready to do anything, just anything, to earn a few dollars or a few euros and that kind of thing. Then there is also the undermining of family structure. I think we have experienced this a lot at the coast, especially I think in the 90s and before. 90s, the early 2000s, where we had a lot of tourists at the coast. And what used to happen, of course, not all the hotel workers, in some hotel workers, I heard this story so many times. And so I believe that it has some weight in it. It happened, whereby even a man and a woman, maybe a young family, would agree and say, okay, maybe the woman would tell the man, oh, just see whether you can get a mzungu, or the wife, it would be the other way around. And the aim was to improve their economic status. So probably the man would go and get a mzungu girlfriend at the hotel, befriend one, they become friends, they'll be brought home. When they come home, the wife is either told to leave, or he say, oh, this is my auntie, my wife left. So the mzungu wife thinks, so the auntie is helping take care of the kids. And of course, on the other side, then they get the financial support or that kind of thing. Of course, at times they had to travel out of the country. That was also good at that time. So what happened is that the family structure was seriously undermined. I hope those things stopped really, and with the collapsing of the tourism industry. But those are some of the things I'm talking about, that family is no longer protected. And there are so many, the boundaries really are neither here nor there. It depends on what is working today and what is working tomorrow. Anyway, so another disadvantage is the loss of interest, especially among the youth, in local land stewardship. So that's just lack of responsibility among the youth. They don't care so much about the land anymore. Money is much more important to them. How much can I make in a day? Then, of course, when it comes to the benefits from tourism cash economy, remember, the Kawaida economy does not necessarily focus on the community. So if I'm lucky enough to benefit, good for me, too bad for the rest of you. And of course, that brings a bit of some bitterness and bad feelings between the community members. And at times, there are conflicts. Then there is also the issue of crime and adoption of illegal underground economies to serve tourists, maybe through prostitution, gambling, drugs. All these, we know, they happen. They happen. A tourist has come who doesn't care about the community. They want to take drugs. They want to use young girls and young boys. And there are those there'll be pimps who will supply all that and more. So yeah, so that some of the negative effects of ecotourism. Now, I want us to get into groups, and I want you to discuss how local communities can participate equitably with other players in ecotourism. Remember, we've said they are stakeholders, they are players, very important. So just think, how can they be involved more in ecotourism, or shaping up the ecotourism ventures, economic ventures, for example, that are coming up in their locations, in their areas, wherever they are, and that kind of thing. So I think I'm going to give this just about 15 minutes. I hope there'll be nobody lost. Would I know? I don't know where I'm supposed to be. Uh-huh. So I think that's okay. I'm just opening up the rooms. Make sure you go to your group. Don't waste time. Make sure you go to your groups and let's start.
Swali ni gani?
Ai. Watu kwani hakuna discussion hapa? Kalami. Fabian.
Na Google.
Okay. Budia. Budia.
Utrea kuga.
Kuna zenye nimeweka kwa chat.
Okay. Marketing, trading.
Nani anawakilisha?
Obvious ni wewe. Ile nimeona ni kuwatumia kama source of labor, creating information centers. Chani confirm zingine.
Of benefits that accrued from the ecosystem program, then there must be an equal, there must be a clear ratio of sharing those revenue that are accrued from ecosystem program. Then another thing we found that the community can fully participate in the ecosystem program by maybe leasing their land to the conservancies. And another thing we found that they can also participate through creation of the local community conservancies, which will help the management staff to easily monitor the local community. Then we found that local community can have equal chance by being given a chance to air their views. That's what we have discussed.
Okay, thank you very much, Group 1. Let's hear from Group 2. Just mention the one.
Such as through guides, that is tour guides, and this can build some sense of commitment. We also have the building of just to create awareness of these ventures, and finally marketing and training.
Okay, thank you, Group 2. Group 3, anything different from those two groups?
Okay, I can only see one thing that's different is that the local community can be allowed to retain the access right to their community resources to ensure that those resources are not misused, to ensure protection of the resources for sustainability and continuation of enhancing the ecotourism.
Okay, thank you, Group 3. Group 4? Was there a Group 4? I think there was a Group 4. 2 people disappeared, and I know who they are. Either they didn't meet, but there was a group with 2 people. Okay, we'll find out that later.
Madam, we lost you.
Oh, sorry. I was still on mute mode. Let me go back. So the basic steps to encourage community participation. So the first thing is that you should understand very clearly the role of the community. And they should be allowed to exercise control over their growth and development. Then Wherever they need technical assistance so that they can make the right decision, it should be availed to them. Then time and funds and experienced personnel should be allocated to work with communities well in advance. Not when you've set up everything, no, right from the beginning, walk with them, talk with them, agree so that at any one given time, everybody knows what is happening. And then avoid allowing communities to feel that they are powerless to influence patterns of development. Remind them again and again. If they are uncomfortable about something, then they should just go ahead and say so. And if they have a better idea about an issue, they should go ahead and voice their concern. The next issue is about empowering communities. So remember, jobs are important benefits, and I know most ecotourism ventures, they all will give you jobs and everything. That is okay, but jobs do not replace empowerment. In fact, at times when you're given a job, you at times to some extent you need to be less powered or empowered, because if you ever want to raise an issue, you are reminded, hey, remember you're an employee, you could lose your job here. So employment is good, but this is not to replace empowerment. Communities must genuinely participate in decision making. And the only way you can make sure somebody is participating genuinely is to make sure that they have all the information they need to make the right decision. Don't give them half the information and hide the other half. So make sure they have all the information so that when you're on the discussion table, they are in complete, they are fully aware of everything about what you're doing or what you suggest to them. Processes, but also it should also be the other way around. Processes must be initiated to ensure that communities can manage their own growth and resources wisely. As you continue, empower the community, build their community so that they can be their own drivers of growth and development. They know where they want to go. They know what they want and what they don't want. So make sure that that's empowered. The other important thing is urge local project participation. In this case, project managers must identify local leaders, local organizations, key priorities of communities and ideas, expectations and concerns of the local people they already have. Get some opinion leaders, people who are respected in the community, people who are knowledgeable, and work to them. Let them participate in the project. And also let them also communicate to the larger community what is happening, where are we, what is happening, and that kind of thing. And then ensure that there is information, gather it for the community, gather it with the community. For any information, just say, always involve the locals. Then also formulate training opportunities so that these community members can gain planning skills, for example, entrepreneurial skills that are required to run small businesses. So don't just bring people from outside to do all this. Build the local people, build their capacity to be able to do this. Then the other one is create stakeholders. So, and in this case, just say you can decide participation even from individuals and also for local organizations. Investment in project development areas should be encouraged, either in cash, labor, or in kind. Encourage local investors. Do you want to start this kind of business? Do you want to do this kind of thing? And encourage the local people to do some of these things. Then develop lodging by local entrepreneurs, and setting standards for local services by local organizations are two good examples. Again, remember in ecotourism, in most cases, the tourist will definitely, in most cases, be staying within the village. So can we encourage the local people to go ahead and invest in this? Then there has to be links to conservation. Sorry, link benefits to conservation. So whatever you are benefiting it, how much are you plowing back into conservation? Distribute the benefits. There's one, okay, I think most of the groups talked about equitable distribution of benefits. Identify the community leaders, bring about the change that they want to see. Don't keep promising it, bring it about. Understand the site-specific conditions, understand. Whereas this model has worked in another area, maybe for this area, because of the conditions, it may not work. So what shall we do? And of course, as always, monitor and evaluate the progress. Let's look at community-based conservation. Community-based conservation may be defined as any voluntary initiative of natural resources or biodiversity production conducted for, by, and with local community. So the aim is to enhance wildlife or biodiversity conservation, but also to provide incentives for the local people. And these incentives, in most cases, they are economic. Community-based conservation can thus encompass so many initiatives with different aims, governance systems, local decision-making power, all these co-management conservation, like what we have at the coast, the Tengefus, the Community Forest Association, all those are community-based conservation initiatives. In self-regulated initiatives, management authority and responsibility rest with the rural community or the indigenous people. This is their show. They do it according to their rules. That is a self-regulated initiative, mostly with no help from outside. But in co-managed initiatives, just want to highlight. In co-managed initiatives, international and national agencies, and non-governmental organizations, etc., promote community-based conservation by involving local people in decision-making around natural resource management. I also want to say that in co-managed initiatives, in most cases, the government is involved. And we know for the fisheries, in BMUs, in the Tengefus, in Community Forest Association, actually it's not the NGOs or all those, it's the government and the people that are involved in conservation and whatever other initiatives there are. Of course, there are other initiatives where NGOs work together with communities. These initiatives are sometimes developed to respond to the failure of top-down conservation models, especially like in the forest sector. And that is why they came up with co-management, where you work together with communities to manage, as opposed to where it was just the government going around and telling people, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. Now they work together with the community. So what's the importance of involving community in conservation practices? Why should we involve them? One of the reasons, enforcing regulations becomes less costly because you're working with them. Then you also benefit from local knowledge, which is very important. You enhance sustainability, you're building the capacity of the local people, you are sharing responsibility, you are accelerating change. There's social cohesion between stakeholders because they look at the resource as theirs, not as a government. There's an issue of building trust, especially between the government and the communities. There's also economies of scale. When you cut down on your costs, you are able to benefit more. So I think allow me to finish this. I know it's been long, but let's look at community-based, community-based ecotourism. So these are popular means of supporting biodiversity conservation. And the most important thing about community-based ecotourism is that it links conservation to local livelihoods, preserving biodiversity, reducing poverty, and all that. Community-based ecotourism is a tool mostly for biodiversity conservation. So that is one, it's not the only thing, but it is a tool for biodiversity conservation. And conservation organizations mostly would fund such an initiative. And the premise is that ecotourism depends on maintaining attractive natural landscapes, rich flora, fauna, etc. So if you can provide an incentive to the community to conserve these, then number one, you'll already achieve one goal of attracting tourists, but also you'll be able to conserve your biodiversity. CBET also is important for poverty reduction and economic development. So it's been seen that overall projects, CBET projects produce the best modest cash benefit. So it's not, they're not making so much money, but sorry, the experience today is that most CBT produce modest cash benefits, and these are often captured by a relatively small proportion of the community. But ecotourism can generate support for conservation among communities as long as they can see some benefits or maintain the hope of doing so. And if it does not threaten or interfere with their main source of livelihood, this is actually the main thing when it comes to any community-based initiative. The first thing they are like, okay, what do you want to do? Is it going to affect, for example, its fisheries? Is it going to affect the areas we are fishing? And the moment you start saying yes, then that's the time you start parting ways with them. So you have to be very, very careful. Number one, how you sell your model and how you plan to sustain that model. CBET is an incentive for conservation. I think that one we've already discussed it. I don't think there's even anything new to say about it. That is, it's already discussed. So we are looking at what is the sustainability of community-based ecotourism projects. The sustainability of CBT is expected to come from three sources. Number one, an ongoing conservation incentive in form of income dependent on biodiversity. For example, it's a park, are people coming to see wildlife? Okay. The second source is reinvestment of some of the income to maintain the business and protect the biodiversity asset base, thereby eliminating or at least reducing the need for external funding. If you're making good money, then you can be able to reinvest that money instead of asking for donation and funding all the time. Then once, if this is continuous, then your CBT is going to be very, very sustainable. Then the other sources, once a basis has been established, that is community awareness, basic infrastructure, the entry of the private sector to provide the capital for further development and expansion has already been set. You prepare, you now open the doors for the private sector, and that's another source of funding and sustainability. All these three, the conservation incentive, the reinvestment, and this opening door for the private sector, they depend on a degree of financial success that at times is hard to achieve. So you really have to work very, very, very hard. So let's look at community-based ecotourism versus conservation priorities. And I think this one we are going to discuss it, but I hope you'll get time to discuss it further as a class. So protecting a wide range of ecosystems, and coral reefs, African savannas, many of these places are rich in biodiversity, but some places are not suited for ecotourism development because of factors such as difficulty to access, elusive wildlife, uncomfortable climates, let's say like in the desert, vulnerability to damage and that kind of thing. So, for example, enthusiasts who seek out the mountain gorilla or the forest canopy walls might be willing to pay more than the average safari van tourist, but they rarely generate revenue on a scale to provide an efficient effective incentive for conservation in areas where there is strong pressure on land and biological resources. So some mind, it's sobering. At times, even if a place is so suited for ecotourism, then ecotourism might actually not take place just because of some of these issues, like the land is under pressure, so are the biological resources. And at times, the things that are putting the land under pressure might win. And of course, there goes the opportunity for conservation or for a community-based ecotourism.